One of the neat things about the Nevada Northern Railway is that they have an Engineer for a Day program. And this program really caters to the needs and desires of any kind of rail fan. If your taste is more in diesels, they got a diesel you can run. If your taste is more on the steam locomotives, they've got 2 of them you can run. The fun part about what they do out here is they like to give you some great instruction on what you're doing, and it's not just a matter of coming out and operating a locomotive. It's a matter of coming out, learning a little bit about it, getting your hands dirty, actually getting to put some oil on the locomotive and work on it a little bit and get around it and throw some coal in it and learn to fire it and learn to do the whole process and really enjoy and live the entire experience, which is one of the things that I really enjoy about coming out here. One of the other reasons I enjoy coming out here is the railroad here enjoys inviting me out to help with some training. Now there's a big misconception out there that when we come out, when Wasatch comes out to do training, that we come out to train you the way that we would do something, and that's really not true. What we do with these training programs is we come out to the individual facilities like the Nevada Northern Railway, and we actually learn what they do. And we learn what their policies and procedures are, and we read their rule book. And then we get together with their team, with their group of volunteers, and what we're trying to do is build some continuity with all of them. Because it's interesting as we travel around, when we find out that we've got a whole bunch of volunteers working on the railroad, that maybe this group of volunteers does it a certain way, but this group of volunteers kind of does it another way. And what we strive to do is come in and bring those 2 groups together, or maybe there's 3 groups or whatever, and bring them together as one team and build a little bit of continuity. It was a lot of fun yesterday in our class as we watched the volunteers talk about things that they had never actually talked about, but once they had talked about them, they realized that they had a lot in common. And it's my own personal belief that when we bring everybody together on common ground and on a level playing field, we actually become much more safe in what we do. This railroad's got a tremendous safety record. A long time ago, the 93 was hit head-on by a flat car full of ties. It was an accident that wasn't caused by the railroad themselves, but they learned a lot from it. And ever since, they've been one of the safest operations in the entire United States of America. So we really take our hat off to this group of volunteers that's able to come together, put a team together like this, and make everything work the way that they do, because it's a lot of fun, it's really safe, and it's proof. It's actual proof that you can have a large group of volunteers that can be extremely safe and professional at what they do. So our hats off to all of them, and we invite all of you to come out and enjoy the wonderful Nevada Northern Railway, and especially the Engineer for a Day program, because it's a lot of fun. Mark and I have known each other for quite a long time, and it's been a great pleasure and honor for me to have been able to get to know Mark and to be able to work with Mark. Mark really has a different way of doing this whole railroad and preservation thing. Unlike a lot of groups who focus on just an operation, Mark is really focused on the total history and the total history package. It was really neat yesterday as the steam engine went over by the freight house. There were a group of school children up from Las Vegas, and the locomotive stopped for a minute, and Mark stood out in front of the locomotive and he exclaimed very proudly, "This is living history." Mark, tell us why it is that you've adopted this idea or culture here of building an entire history package as opposed to just building a railroad.
I think it goes back to my belief that what I call the railroad is the steam-powered internet of its age. And the reason why I say that is we need to make a connection with today's society. You know, during the day, 20s, 30s, 40s, the railroad was completely and totally intertwined with society. But after the formation of Amtrak, UP, Burlington, they stopped advertising to the general public. And so railroading went underground. And the other big challenge that we have is, where are we going to find the next generation to maintain all of this? You know, during the day, you could go to a depot and you could learn, you could know the station master, you could know the clerk, and he might let you even touch the telegraph. If you went to a rail yard, you know, you could know the crew, and the crew would say, "Hey, you want a ride? Come up here." Well, today, you can't get close to any of that. All the stations are gone. The rail yards are under tight security. So how are we going to engage the next generation? And we have to form this in terms that they understand. You know, to a 13-year-old, when I say the internet, they understand that. And when I say to them, what would your life be like if I took the internet away from you? They go, "Oh." And I go, well, during the day, the railroad was completely and totally intertwined with society. And I give them examples like, we talked about time. How, you know, where the time zones come from. Why do we say standard time? In fact, we usually get fourth graders, and transportation is part of their curriculum. And one of the things I love to do with fourth graders is I say, okay, imagine yourself back into 1912. Do you have cell phones? No. Do you have telephones? Maybe. Do you have radios? No. Okay, you guys here are the conductors on the back of the train. This group, you're the engineers up front. How are you going to communicate? Well, we'll just yell all day. Won't that get old? Especially when you're far back. So how are you going to communicate back and forth? And they figure out signals. They figure out their own hand signals. And then we do a little thing where we let them give signals to one another and move equipment. And they're just like going, wow.
Yeah.
And so they take this home with them. I mean, quite frankly, what I do with that group too. I mean, if you tell a teenager we're going to a museum, I mean, they get thrilled.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say,
that's exciting. We're going to a museum.
I'm sick today.
Yeah, I'm sick today. So the thing is, these are all stories. And railroading has grand stories that we want to keep secret. We don't want anyone to know. And when we do that, we do a disservice to ourselves and we do a disservice to our visitors, because especially here at East Ely, we're so much more than just a train ride.
Yeah.
We have, the complex is 56 acres with more than 70 buildings and structures. And the equipment here, 95% of it is original to the railroad. Locomotive 40 behind us, of course I'm a little prejudicial, I think is the most historic locomotive in the entire country. Is there another locomotive that came onto the property over 102 years ago and is still being maintained in the original engine house and in the original machine shop and couples up to the original cars.
Yeah, that's unique.
And goes to the original depot where you buy a ticket to ride an original train. And that is what we're trying to involve people in. And as we do this, you know, the entire complex, we're responsible for the 70 buildings and structures. We're responsible for 2 operating steam locomotives, an operating steam crane, about 8 passenger cars, 8 diesel locomotives, 30 miles of track, and we are in the most remote city in the continental United States. I mean, we're 240 miles from anywhere. So the question becomes, how do you engage people? How do you get them to make a commitment to drive essentially 500 miles?
You know, one of the things that you've done to do that, and I want to ask you about this too, because you've talked about engaging people. One of the things that you've started here that's been very successful for you is your engineer programs, where people can come in and rent a locomotive, take a train out, take a locomotive out anyway, in the yard, up the line, things like that. That's part of engaging the people.
Oh, absolutely.
And as you've already mentioned, that's been successful for you. Give us a little bit more of an idea of how that reciprocates into more people becoming interested and coming back and becoming more involved.
The museum started the Be the Engineer program years ago, and it's been one of the best kept secrets out there, and I'm working very hard to change that. Basically what we do is we do allow the general public to come and actually operate one of our locomotives out on the main line. And they'll go across road crossings, they need to blow the whistle, they'll go through a tunnel, the whole bit. So it's a very unique experience, and because it's a unique experience, people brag about it. I mean, we give them a certificate with the locomotive, and that goes up on the wall. And of course, the family takes pictures and the whole bit. And what do photographers do with photos? They show them to people.
Yeah,
so,
especially rail fans.
Especially rail fans. So, and basically what that does for us is it creates an additional revenue stream that at the end of the day helps us keep our doors open.
Mark, I got to tell you, I've loved the weekend. We were here. We've told everybody that we were here helping with some training, interacting with the groups. A lot of the folks that you have here today were with us at the 2002 Winter Olympics,
yes,
which was a lot of fun. Mark, I just want to, as we wrap up here, I want to thank you for your friendship and your time. It's always enjoyable talking to you on the phone. Mark, just give everybody a quick idea. I believe that I may be coming back this year to do more of what we did today. But on top of that, why don't you give us a quick pitch on the other events that our listeners may really be interested in, which would be your engineer type program, coming and volunteering, your adult rail camp. Just give us a quick spiel on that so that everybody knows where to go and how to find that.
Well, if you ever wanted to see what railroading was like during the day, you want to come to East Ely here at the Nevada Northern Railway. And this is the reason why. We do have the Be the Engineer program, where you get to go up into the cab, pull the throttle, and because of demand, we've also allowed people to do it now with cars.
Wow.
Yeah, you get to do a train. So that is very unique. The other thing we have is Railroad Reality Week, where you come out here for a week, and again, we took a page from Mark Twain. We work you like a dog for a week, and you pay us for the privilege. And what you do during that week is we have a welcoming on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, you're in a rules class with our staff and volunteer. You're going through our rule book with the staff and volunteer. And on Sunday, Saturday's classroom, Sunday is practical and also testing. You have to pass the 125-question written test. And I'm happy to say that 99% of the people do pass on the first go-around. From there, you have a choice. You can go into operations, you can go into the shop, or you can go on track. And then we rotate you through all three. So you spend a day out with the track people. And, we talk about track. Oh, track. Oh, isn't that great? You do track inspection in the morning. In the afternoon, you repair defects, which means you put ties in. And, boy, putting ties in, piece of cake. Easy.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Do it blindfold.
Do it blindfolded, yeah. So it is hot, hard work. Then you rotate into the shop, and we have now, we try to schedule our 30-day inspections during Railroad Reality Week.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, so you'll never guess who gets to climb into the firebox and take out the fire brick.
But that's a lot of fun.
That's a lot of fun.
Well, I'll bet they love it, too.
They do love it. They do love it. You get to work with our staff, and you are doing hands-on. You do climb into the firebox. You do climb underneath the locomotive. The whole 9 yards. You'll help them prep the locomotive for operations. You'll do the inspection on the diesel locomotives. And if there's something that's broken, you'll help fix it. And then what we do is we move you into operations where you join a train crew to get a train over the road as a student brakeman. You work with the conductor. And also in that, we do hands-on signaling. You'll make joints. Come to me. And when you do the coupling, if you do it wrong, everyone knows about it. Don't know how that happens. And so you have that opportunity. And then we do tours, too. The railroad's here because of the copper mine. So we tour the copper mine. And then, I don't know why they call it this. They call it the Death March. It's the Executive Director's Tour.
Oh.
Yes, where we take you through the entire complex and let you see things that the general public doesn't get to see. So that is the entire week. And then for graduation, everything comes together. You rotate through engineer, brakeman, and switchman. And you have to, as the engineer, with your crew, brakeman and switchman, go take it one of the diesels, get a car, take it from one track, put it on the other track in the yard. And you have to do the joint, you have to do the brakes, the whole 9 yards. And so this is where it all comes together. And it's an incredibly unique program. Then, because we are so isolated, and again, these 70 buildings and structures, if a building doesn't have a purpose, you can restore it, but if it doesn't have a purpose, it starts degrading again. So what we've done is we converted our chief engineer's building into a bunkhouse. And there's 4 sleeping rooms, 2 bathrooms with showers, a kitchen area, and a seating area. And so you can actually spend the night in the museum.
Wow.
I mean, if you really want the experience, the chief engineer's building, the bunkhouse, is in the center of the yard, in between the engine house lead and the main. And when the locomotives come in, they run down the engine house lead. So sitting there, you see a steam locomotive go right past your window.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, so you can spend the night there. We also allow people to spend the night in one of the cabooses. And it's a working caboose, so if it's out on a train, you may have to wait for it to come back. And we also allow people to ride with the engineer, too. If you don't want to get all this physical and you just want to taste, you can ride with the engineer for a trip up the hill and back again. And so we've tried to do all these unique programs to allow people to understand what it takes to get a train over the hill during the day.
Yeah, that's neat. That's really great. When you mentioned all of that, I had the thought in my mind of night at the museum where you're sleeping in the museum and everything comes to life at night. I doubt that everything comes to life at night, but that would be pretty neat if it did.
Well, actually it does.
Does it?
Yes. Right behind us, what's 40 doing?
Well, going to sleep, yeah.
Yeah, she's popping. The rail yard has lots of noises at night. And 3 buildings are haunted. This is one of the haunted buildings.
Wow.
And the person who saw the ghost in here when he was a teenager is now in Marine Recon. He will not come into this building at night.
Really?
Yeah, Marine Recon, no problem. Coming into a haunted building, no. We have seen apparitions in the yard, so You don't know.
Well, Mark, it's getting a little late in the day, and I really don't want to stay too much longer than with all those realities. But listen, Mark, congratulations on all that you've done. It really is neat. Every time I come back, I always see change. And I know for those of you that are here, and I hope that all of your volunteers get to hear this, when you're standing so close to the trees, sometimes you don't see the forest.
Absolutely.
But for those of us that come on occasions, we really do get to see the forest, because every time you come, it's something new and it's something changed. And you see that spiral that you're talking about. We really see it. So congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you.
It means a lot to us to get to come and participate with you and, be your friends and to help out where we can. So we wish you the best of luck, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
You betcha, John.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Mark.
it tremendously.
Thank
you.
you.